Hey y'all, I have a lot of blush. These are just creams, liquids. This doesn't touch into my powders because I consider those a different product. So on the left here in this small tub are eight new blushes that have found their way into my life. Two of these I bought during the Ulta 21 Days of Beauty sale. These are the RMS Lip to Cheeks. This is a Revlon. The cat is no longer unscritched. She has been scritched on. All right, this is from Revlon. This is their Glimmer Blush Drops. I want to do some experimenting with this one, which is why we have like everything, including canvas from Hindash. This is pretty, but you'll see when I demo it, it dries down so fast. The rest of these I bought in a bundle secondhand, and honestly, I'm not mad at any of them. So we have Stockholm from Merit. Encourage? Yes, Encourage from Rare Beauty. And then these two, I was just curious because I hadn't heard much about these. These are the Huda Beauty blush filters. And you know what? Pink one is like white on pastel. I have rambled and ranted about this so many times. So we have strawberry cream, fabulous, and ube cream. I'm gonna swatch these all, and then we're gonna go into my other blush, my like stash, and see if I have anything that's comparable, see if I have dupes, and figure out if like all 8 of these blushes need to come into my regular cream blush collection, because it's a lot. It's a lot. So we're gonna jump into this. So let's go. All right, so I think the first thing we need to do is swatch each of the new blushes so that we get an idea of the undertone and color family so that I know what to pull, because I don't think anything in here is gonna match this tulip tint in coral. I don't think anything is going to really be as pink as this Matte Beauty blush one from Charlotte Tilbury. I don't know if anything is going to be this desaturated, but it's worth comparing the Rare Beauty to my Anastasia Beverly Hills. And it's also worth comparing Fume from Phytosurgeons. I also think I want to compare this Milani Cheek Kiss because it's pretty cool toned. All right. Let's swatch these first before I start pulling out comps. Excuse you. Stay. All right. We're going to do the Revlon. Excuse you. We're going to do the Revlon Glimmer Drops first, and you're going to see up close what the problem I have with these is. All right. You don't need much. This is a very concentrated formula. So there, it doesn't look terribly difficult to work with. But when you put it on the skin, it dries down so fast, you don't have time to really blend it. All right, let's discuss these two lip to cheeks. So I have Spell. So you can see why I picked up Spell. It is beige. It is very easy on the skin. It's really nice. We then have Modest, which is this beautiful bright coral with a bit of pink in there. I can see it being really brightening. And one thing I'm impressed with is how small these are. And you can really see there just how thin the lip to cheek is comparatively. Encourage from Rare Beauty. Yeah, you can see just how cool toned and brown and with just a hint of beige that is. It's really pretty. All right, Stockholm from our friends at Merit. That is a bright pink. I am trying to embrace colors like this. And I think this one will be good because it is really sheer, but it's that really rich, tenacious formula that Merit puts into their blushes. It's just different and it's unique, and we'll see what in my collection measures up to it. All right, Huda Beauty Ube Cream. I do not love this dispenser because it feels like you have to pull really hard to get the product out. So this is a lavender, or a lilac, and it does seem to have a bit of a white base. So I don't know if anybody with darker skin would be able to wear that. And then we have Strawberry Cream. I think this is the shade that I'm most excited about because it is right in my wheelhouse. Oh my God, it actually smells like strawberries. That's really funny. Does this one smell like ube? No, it also smells like strawberry. It's a very sweet candy smell, which is odd for a blush. I'm not seeing anything that compares really well to anything else. I mean, you've got Modest, and then you've got the Revlon. I don't know what color this is. So this is supposed to be coral. I would argue that that is coral. That is, well, let's build it up. I have not tried layering this. That does not look coral to me. That looks coral. Let's pull out Crispa Coral from Bloom Effects. Yeah, that is like berry. That is pink. That is not coral. That's really interesting. All right. So the first thing I want to do is pull out some comparisons. See what I have in here that we can swatch and compare against these. So the first thing that really pulls to mind, first of all, yes, we're going to swatch, what is this, Latte against Spell, and then Olay, as in like with milk. We're going to swatch against the Huda Strawberry. What else do I have that matches up to that? I know I have other blushes. We're going to pull Encouraged with Anastasia, with Phytosurgence, with Milani. I'm going to pull out Bespoke from Merit, and maybe even Lust, because I think these are all the same color family. It's just a matter of opacity and color density. Like how much color do they have in them? I know that these are not the same color and formula, but they're very close in, they're the same color, they're just more saturated versus more desaturated. Do I want to compare this pink to the Charlotte Tilbury to Singe? Sure, those are appropriate. So we can compare Modest to Macchiato from Finding Ferdinand. Sure, we'll throw Ember in there. I can honestly say I don't have anything like Ube Cream from Huda. That is a unique color to my blush collection. Modest, I'm also going to throw Tulip Tint in. And I think those are going to do it as far as comparisons or dupes. Basically, do I need these new blushes? And I think I'm finding the answer is yes. All right, I'm going to wash these off. And as long as we're comparing orange tones, we'll throw Virtue. Is that Virtue? Yes, Chew from Rare Beauty in there. All right, so I've got a couple here that just have 2 or 3. I think I can do all of these at once. And then that might lead us into these, actually, now that we're talking beiges. So yeah, we'll do all of these with these 2. All right, this is my beloved latte from Finding Ferdinand and Khaki Reviews Beauty. This is from the Summer Abroad. It's a couple of years ago. I have yet to find anything to dupe that shade. This is Spell from RMS. It does look like it could work. It's a little more brown. It's a little darker. It's not as peach. It's still really pretty. It's really pretty. And I think in a pinch, now these are different formulas. The Finding Ferdinand is much stiffer, whereas the RMS feels more like a balm. It melts a little bit when I touch it. So I don't know what its staying power is going to look like. All right, and that's going to lead us into these beautiful brown beige blushes. We're going to pull out Encourage. Encourage is going to be darker, but oh my goodness, is it pretty. Wow. Okay, blended out, it looks like it has the same undertone as Spell. Maybe a little more purple in there, but that's interesting. All right, let's talk this Milani because I think it's gonna be a little, it's gonna be the same color. It's much more shiny because these are a Blush and Glow formula. This formula does dry down, so it does become bulletproof after a while. ABH. This is also Latte. All right, so what I'm seeing here is I don't necessarily have a dupe for Latte anywhere here. We're not done yet, and I'm not necessarily trying to dupe Latte. I'm trying to compare these 2 blushes to my beige blush collection to see if there's a place for them. Fume from Phytosurgents. It's gonna be close to Encourage, but this is a much more blurring formula and it does like warm up and change color on the skin. In the initial swatch, it looks like it could be similar, but once you blend it out, this one really warms up, whereas Encourage keeps its depth. Stockholm from Merit, not Stockholm, Bespoke. Honestly, you can't really compare anything to this formula because it's so unique. But the color, again, brings out a lot of the purple in Encourage, but it also reminds me a bit of Spell in its finish and in its dry down. And then the last one I pulled out just for grins is going to be Lust from Ritual de Fille. I love this blush. It's so pretty. All right, so after swatching all of my beige blushes, is there a place in my life for these 2, Spell and Encourage? I think there is. I think there is. I don't see any problem welcoming them into the fold, right? Ube Cream, I don't have anything to compare this to. So I'm just gonna have to use it and see how I feel about it. It's a very different color of blush for me. All right, let's do these like strawberry warmer pink beige. This is a very different color. It's harder to explain. All right, so the Huda is a little bit straight down the middle. It doesn't have a whole lot of nuance, but it is blending out really nicely. It's got a nice like silicone blend to it. It is kind of I don't know, it's a little patchy at the edges. So this is a formula that I am completely unfamiliar with. And that is one of the reasons I bought the bundle off Mercari that had the 2 Huda Beauty, the 1 Rare Beauty, the 1 Merit, oh, and the Armani. So you can see here that the Finding Ferdinand blush, it has a similar undertone, but it's a little more beige and it's a smoother formula. So I will be interested to play with this and see how it works on my face. I don't know if I have a whole lot of hope for it given how I just watched it blend out, but I'm not gonna, count my chickens before they hatch. So we're just gonna see. This is just playtime. Playtime, comparing, swatching, all of that fun jazz. All right, so Stockholm from Merit is pink. It's a pretty pink, and I think all over the cheeks it could just create the nicest flush. But so does the Charlotte Tilbury. These are matte. This is a matte formula, so it is going to look and feel different. It's also got a little bit more of a white base. So we can see here the difference being the Charlotte Tilbury has more white in it, so it pops off of my skin, whereas Stockholm is more sheer. It's a cooler toned pink, and I like it. It's really pretty. Let's see how it compares to Singe. Oh, Singe is much deeper. It's also got more beige. Singe almost compares to these two. So we're comparing RMS Mathis. Oh, wow. That, I was not expecting that. It's more akin to Singe. How does that work? I guess it's a pinkish coral. It's a little brighter. It does have a little bit more oomph. I don't know how to explain it. All right, so we're comparing that to Macchiato. I know that Macchiato is going to be deeper. Yeah, Macchiato is not that good. Rare Beauty Virtue. So this is going to be more orange. That's really interesting. And then Ember from Phytosurgence. The Tulip Tint in Crispa Coral from Bloom Effect. Y'all, my brain is kind of melted over this right now. I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of making my brain melt. All right, so to answer, are these similar to anything else I have in my collection? Yes and no. So the 2 Huda, their coloring is interesting, but it still feels like it's straight down the middle. I don't know how to explain it. The 2 RMS Lip to Cheeks, yeah, those are gorgeous colors. I've heard beautiful things about the formula. I have not put them on my face yet. I had a very busy weekend. Did not have time to put everything on my face. Stockholm, I think Stockholm's going to be a winner. It's a beautiful blush. We'll have to see how much I use it in comparison to the other Merit Beauty blushes, because I do have 3, although I feel like Beverly Hills is going to be finished in the next handful of months. So that's Beverly Hills, which is peach compared to all of these other warmer toned blushes. I'm gonna wash my arm off and then we're gonna do some playing with this formula. I pulled out anything that was either liquid that I felt would work. Why are you still out? Talking about this Glimmer Drops, this is supposed to be coral? Come on, Revlon, get your color stuff together. I do appreciate that it's got this relatively easy to push button on the bottom that dispenses, in theory, just enough. So we're going to dot this on and dot it again. So when you place it in a really thin layer, it just, that is going to be too much blush for one face. But that's the amount that you have to put on in order to get it to blend. It just doesn't want to blend. It dries so fast, and you can see I'm trying to blend out the edges and they're just not moving. It dries down super fast. So what I would like to do is, using some of my liquid blushes and canvas from Hindash, see if I can mix this with other stuff that's going to allow it blend easier. As we just noticed, I have a fair number of blushes in this shade, but I don't have any that are this difficult to work with. And I want to kind of prove that you can take something that's this difficult to work with and improve it. I also discovered mixing it with a primer, specifically the RMS primer. So let's do that first. Just blot that out. I still try to squeeze it. All right. So we're just going to blend those two together. And you can see already how much nicer the edges are laying down. And it gives it a really nice finish, because that's what this primer does. It's blurring. It's got a little bit of a glow to it. And when you mix it with this blush, it just blends seamlessly. You can see how much longer I have to work with this and move it around before it fully dries down. And yeah, I'm going over that other swatch. I don't care. I want to have space on my arm to mix these. All right, so it did pick up the blush that was underneath it. That's not a bad thing, because it shows that you can rehydrate these and continue to blend them. You have something like a silicone primer, but it's still a bit patchy, and it may have been that I over blended it, or it may just be the way that it is laying down. Let's take a little bit of canvas from Hindash, and I'm going to squeeze out just, I'm trying to get like the smallest bit possible. So what this is going to do is dilute the shade a little bit, but it's also going to give it that really nice dry down that the Hindash color fluids have. So you can see right there, the finish is so much smoother. It's not nearly as patchy or as hard to work with. That just completely changes the formula. And it doesn't have to be this. It could be a concealer that dries down really nicely. I'm thinking the Tower 28, the Givenchy, any of those that have that dry down and that really beautiful finish. All right, but the problem is this changes the color. It just changes the color a smidge. So let's mix it with the rest of these and see how we can adjust the color, because that is, we're not trying to keep this true to color. We're trying to just use it and blend it. So here we have Hope from Rare Beauty. Put down just a smidge of that. And then the tiniest bit of our Revlon blush. All right, so immediately the Rare Beauty does pretty much the same thing that the Hindash did. Pulls the pigment into that silicone finish, but allows the color to stay pretty true. It's a little bit more pink, but it's also easier to blend. The rest of this is just going to be color. It's not necessarily changing the formula, but it's making the color easier to work with, and it's fun, so why not? Encourage, again, from Rare Beauty. Ooh, I'm going to be interested to see what happens here. That is such a pretty shade. Oop. It's going to pull it down to a much cooler, deeper place, but it's also going to give it a little bit more time to work, which is the important thing here. This Revlon blush on its own leaves you no time unless you're going to apply and blend in the same motion and you're going to do it really fast. The Revlon just seizes up. I think that's really pretty. It's not coral. This is not a coral blush by any stretch of the imagination. I'd be interested to see what their other shades look like. All right, let's try this. This is the Milani Cheek Kiss Liquid Blush and Glow in the shade Cafe. I try not to get too much from these sponge products. So this is also a drugstore formula, and drugstore formulas tend to dry down more, and they tend to dry down faster. So I'm trying to work rather quickly here. It looks like, because that Milani blush is so thin and lightly pigmented, it doesn't look like it's changing the color so much as just giving it a little bit of stabilizing it a little bit. That's beautiful. It looks rich. It doesn't look patchy. It's a really pretty combination. We're gonna try a little bit of the Charlotte. So this is a much brighter formula than any of the stuff we've mixed it with before. So I expect this to be a little bit brighter, but also, again, easier to blend. Yeah, look at that. I can carry it right outside the line of the application spot. And it's just blending beautifully. Versus, let's remember what this does on its own. Now, does that mean that I want to keep this blush? Not really. But this is an experiment in, if you have this blush and you can't really afford to buy another blush, what can you use to make that blush work? Of these, I would recommend the silicone primer or a concealer, if you really want to keep the color. If not, another liquid cheek product would help it too. All right, so that's mixed with the coral blush. You can see how much further it blends. It really does carry that color. We're getting a little bit of streakiness, just a smidge. Okay, I want to pull out an actual concealer. So I have the Tower 28 concealer here. Use that last little spot up there. So because the concealer has so much pigment, it's blanking out that little bit of blush. But because the Tower 28 has that nice, rich serum formula, it's staying malleable and movable. It's not streaking, and it's not as hard to work with as it initially was. If you are in a tight spot and something like this is all that's in your budget, there are ways to make stuff like this work. It's also fun to play. So if you have a blush and you want to play with mixing blushes, go for it. It's fun. All right, so as far as these 6 blushes go, I very much see a place in my life for these. That being said, let's look at the amount of, I already have a metric buttload of blush. You are not blush. So I'll be curious to see how well these integrate, because I do find myself kind of getting in a, oh, I'm using the same thing over and over again, and this is what I really enjoy right now. It'll be interesting over the next few months to see how well these blushes integrate themselves into my life. I am going to put them in a separate basket and keep them on my desk. While I'm getting ready, I can see them and think to use these instead of these. I hope you all enjoyed this. If you did, please click the like button, share, subscribe, leave me a comment. Let me know what your favorite blushes of the moment. I'm always curious. I hope you are taking care of yourselves so you can take care of each other, and I'll see y'all in my next one. Bye, French.